Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is Football and Nonsense. And it's that most wonderful time of the year. It is the countdown to Christmas, although I guess really people start counting down from like December 1st, which is my birthday. I know that's when I start the countdown. There's the 12 days of Christmas, there's the 25 days of Christmas, there's all kinds of days of Christmas, but really it all boils down to the day that is Christmas, and that is coming up just after this weekend. So this is the 19th, the 25th. Is just under, well, I guess technically a full 7 days from now. It will be Monday. Christmas on a Monday. Ugh. It's kind of boring, isn't it? Because then it's not like Christmas is on a Friday and then you could get Saturday and Sunday. No, Christmas is a Monday and most people will be back to work at the 26th. I always thought that people should get 3 days off with Christmas. Christmas Eve, of course, Christmas itself, and then the day after, because, I mean, regardless of what age you are, who wants to spend time with family and friends and open presents and then have to just go work the next day, I mean, you need a little bit of time to unwind from everything. If you host Christmas, I feel for you. You probably would like that day after, just because you probably spent most of your Christmas night cleaning up after everybody went home, and you want to be able to relax and watch Die Hard and whatever it is that adults do. And for kids, they want to play with all those presents. They want to play with the new remote control car, the iPad, or whatever it was that they got. So 3 days is what I'm asking for: Christmas Eve, Christmas, and the day after. And then we can go back to our normal grind. New Year's, you don't really need the day and the day after. You kind of just need the day after, because the day of, so New Year's Eve, you don't need off. New Year's Day, yes, because everybody's staying up till midnight for the countdown. You don't want to go into work first thing the next morning if you were out drinking champagne and singing Auld Lang Syne with everybody, or however you pronounce it. So I think we need to rethink holidays, but nonetheless, it's Christmas time here on the Fan Show as well. Why wouldn't it be? And we've got a great week, great lineup for you of guests, including a return of Mr. Grinch Thursday. You won't want to miss that. It still makes me laugh that it was me booking the Grinch last year that got me accused of stealing segments. In case you missed it last week, I went over the story briefly. I was accused of stealing the segment for having the Grinch on my show by someone who had Santa Claus on theirs. So there's that part. Okay, it wasn't even that I had Santa Claus on mine too after they had Santa Claus on theirs. No, they had Santa Claus on their show. I had the Grinch on mine. And yes, I had the Grinch on mine after they had Santa on theirs, but I also do 3 shows a week instead of just one. Not to mention the fact that the idea, the very thought of having a popular Christmas character as a special guest during the Christmas time is so original, so unique, that it couldn't possibly have been thought of by anyone else. So, yeah, there's that. That was fun times. People are stupid, though. People get jealous, and it is what it is. Tonight, though, we've got NFL Network's Cynthia Frelund. That will be a lot of fun. She's a number cruncher, and although I am not, I do enjoy talking to them. But we're going to talk about more than just football. We're going to talk about the holidays, Christmas, of course, and a few other things. But first, before we get too deep into the conversation and discussion, let's go ahead and go through the headlines. And the headlines are that we have just 2 weeks left until the end of the NFL regular season. That's right, 2 more games, and then we will be in the thick of it. The playoff picture took a little bit more shape this last week, especially with some games that... So we had the Jaguars beating the Texans, and I don't mean they just beat the Texans, like they beat the Texans. And they have clinched a playoff berth for the first time in 10 years. Congratulations, Jacksonville Jaguars. So yes, congratulations, Jacksonville Jaguars. Clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2007. So they well deserved. They're on the brink of being the first defense to, lead in, I think, points scored, turnovers, and sacks. Yeah, Saxonville. And I couldn't be happier for them. It's so weird to say Jacksonville Jaguars good team and in the playoffs because it's been so long, and like the Cleveland Browns, they have been kind of in the butt of every joke, and the Bears are in that category now. Speaking of which, coming up this week, the Browns will face the Bears in Chicago. I believe that this will be the one win that the Browns get this season, so book it. I think that when it comes to Jacksonville, that they were probably the ones that people thought would be the first one to to climb back up the mountaintop. So right now they're a projected third seed. They could still get the number one overall seed, but it's going to take a lot of help from other teams. They no longer control their own fate in that regard. They do, however, control their own fate when it comes to winning the AFC South. Therefore, they would host a playoff game, and probably that would be the first round. But man, oh man, that AFC title picture, it really just it's going to be something, because there are two teams, kind of three, that are so head and shoulders above the rest that it really makes you wonder just what all we're going to be seeing when it comes to playoff time. So let's go over it real quick. After a thriller, but at the same time, controversial game that left a really sour taste in everybody's mouth, the Patriots defeated the Steelers in Pittsburgh. I don't care what you say. Jesse James caught the damn ball and then scored a touchdown with it. And I've been hearing everybody, the referees went by the rule book. Okay, that's fine. But in the reality of things, why is there such a lacking of common sense anymore? I don't understand why you need 3 to 4 paragraphs in a rule book to define what a catch is, what a reception is. He catches the ball, which even the head of officiating says in his remarks after the game. He said that he catches the ball because his knee is down, he has control. 1 knee equals 2 feet, okay? Then he turns and extends himself, therefore a football move, reaches the ball across the goal line, at which point the play should be dead, touchdown. But they said because he didn't survive the ground, because as he went to the ground, the ball hits the ground and then gets jarred loose, but he's already over the goal line at that point. He's already been over the goal line, and the ref says he didn't survive the ground. What the hell does that mean? Didn't survive the ground? Wow. This is why people have such a problem with the NFL, is because you don't need things like terminology, surviving the ground, or what is a catch, or possession, or whatever the hell's going on with balls that hit the pylon and it's not even an out at the 1 yard line. It's a touchback for the other team. The product sells itself, ladies and gentlemen. It really does. And the NFL just really needs to go and water down some of this, because we have replay, we have the technology, we can get rid of the chain gang, because I didn't even watch the game, but the Dallas and Oakland game, saw the replays. My God, like this is why games are pushing 3.5 hours. This is why we hate officials. We hate officiating. The product sells itself. The NFL, football is like cigarettes. Okay, it's addictive. It's cool. It sells itself. And I don't mean to say to go out and buy yourself a pack of smokes right now. I've quit for 2 years now, and I'm fine with that. I was a social smoker, but the point is that if you watch Thank You for Smoking, which hands down one of the most underrated best movies out there with Aaron Eckhart, his boss is like, yeah, cigarettes, how do we improve this? They're addictive, they're cool, and they're easy to get. It practically sells itself. The NFL, football, sells itself. So in the offseason, I truly hope that they get together and they just say, we're going to go more towards the common sense route rather than the technicality of things and breaking things down in 3 to 4 paragraphs. And we have replay there for when we need it. But when it comes to judging if somebody caught the ball, your first reaction, did they catch it or not? And that's what you're going to go with. Seriously, like it's become such a problem that it's mind-blowing. So here you have it, your AFC playoff picture as of right now. New England number 1 because of that. Pittsburgh number 2. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Jacksonville, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Tennessee. I mean, wow. Tennessee lost to the Niners. 49ers have now won 3 in a row. Jimmy Garoppolo is undefeated as a starter. He has won his first 5 starts. The only other quarterback to do that, Big Ben Roethlisberger. And look at the career that Big Ben has had. Wow. My, oh my. Things look good in San Francisco right now. San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 54. You can book it. But I'm just so impressed with this guy. Robbie Gould, though, man. Robbie Gould is gold. 6 for 6, the game winner, the walk-off field goal. Bradley Pinion deserves a lot of credit, too, for holding his balls. But this team, been through a lot, and they may have finally found their golden goose in Jimmy Garoppolo. So congrats, Jimmy G. You're welcome, Jaguars, for a little bit of help there. Buffalo pretty much controls their own fate, as does Tennessee. If they both win out, they're in. KC, LA is at 7-7, who they just beat. Oakland is at 6-8, and of course the Broncos have been eliminated already. So they kind of control their own fate too, but with the way that the Chargers and Oakland have played, I don't really think that they would get in. It would take a lot for them to win the division. They could maybe get in as a wild card, but you're talking about a lot of X's and O's at that point, and a lot of variables and things that need to happen, could not happen, may happen, in all likelihood, possibly, maybe, therefore. So let's switch over to the NFC side of things. As I mentioned, the Niners won their 3rd straight. This is our first 3-game winning streak since 2014. I didn't even remember what it felt like, but I was at the edge of my seat. I was screaming at my television. I was jumping up and down, yelling when the field goal was good. I was running around my living room. It felt great to be like that fan again. I had almost forgot what it felt like. And when I remembered, oh, how good it felt. The Eagles seem to be just fine with Nick Foles. Granted, it was against the New York Giants, but they are now 12-2. They control their own fate as far as the seeding that they have right now, the number 1 seed. Vikings nipping at their heels, 11-3. What a convincing win they had over the weekend as well. Then 3, 4, 5, and 6. The Rams, the Saints, the Panthers, and the Falcons. And I'm sorry, moment of silence for the Green Bay Packers, who have now been eliminated from the 2017 playoff picture. Okay, sorry guys, Aaron Rodgers, man, he made it a game. He really did. I thought they were going to pull it off. When he brought them back to within 7 and they were driving, I was like, he's going to do it. He's going to tie this game up, and then they're going to get a walk-off touchdown from Aaron. And they didn't, and I felt super bad. But in the hunt still, Detroit, Seattle, and Dallas, but the Rams embarrassed by every definition of the word the Seattle Seahawks this Sunday in CenturyLink Field, 42-7. Not often will you see a score like that in the Pete Carroll era, and I absolutely loved it. Sorry, not sorry, but we all know my feelings about the Seahawks. I did make the bold prediction that all the teams that were undefeated in the in the preseason would not advance to the postseason. One of those was, in fact, the Seattle Seahawks. So that's looking pretty good right now. Detroit needs to win out. Atlanta, New Orleans, and Carolina. This will come down to the last game of the season. And Atlanta and New Orleans meet up again this upcoming week. So Atlanta could go from 3rd to 1st of course, Carolina more than likely will get a win this week as well. And then Atlanta will play Carolina in the final game of the season. So this whole division, although they're all three in it right now, could possibly only have one in it, or maybe only 2 out of 3, which still ain't bad, but it's not something that I think any of these three teams want. I think we are seeing the best out of Atlanta right now, which is great, as well as the Panthers. But the Saints, though, they are the hot team right now. So that's your NFC playoff picture. It was a great weekend of games. It really was. I hate games that are otherwise fantastic that end in controversy because you just don't need it. Like I said, the product sells itself. Saints won 31-19 over the Jets. Ravens won 27-10 over the Browns. The Ravens could still sneak in as a wild card team, but not likely. Broncos over the Colts 25-13. Lions over the Bears 20-10. Chiefs over the Chargers 30-13. Bills over the Dolphins 24-16. Bills will play New England. That game might be one to watch this weekend. 34-29 was the final. The Eagles over the Giants. 34-7 Vikings over the Bengals. 45-7 the Jaguars over the Texans. 20-15 the Redskins and the Cardinals. No one cares. 31-24 was the final in Carolina against the Packers. 27-24 was your final in Pittsburgh with New England getting the win, and 20-17 was the final, the Cowboys over the Raiders with a controversial index card first down, which I think is just could not be any more stupid than it was. And then last night's score, 24-21, the Falcons keep it rolling in Tampa Bay. John Gruden is in the Ring of Honor. Aaron Rodgers has been placed on injured reserve, so he has played his last snap for Green Bay for 2017. We'll see a fresh 110% Aaron Rodgers in 2018, so watch out for that. And that's going to do it for the headlines. I'm going to go ahead and bring on my first and only guest for this lovely Tuesday as we count down to Christmas, Cynthia Frelund. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of The Fan Show after this. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The Fan Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, fresh from the NFL Network, she's one of our favorite number crunchers and our special guest this evening making her debut, Cynthia Frelund. Welcome, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. 'Tis the season, and I know that some people have their thoughts on Christmas, but it's kind of one of the holidays and countdowns and build-ups to a holiday that I do my best to enjoy. I don't know your thoughts on Christmas, but I try to be a glass half full kind of guy on it.
I haven't started Christmas shopping yet, but apart from that, I do like celebrating. I like seeing everyone, and I definitely I'm a big fan of eating a lot of like cookies and food. So like anything where I can plan dinners instead of buying presents, I'm all for.
Yeah, it's definitely not diet season. You know, it's you'll pay for everything in January.
Yeah, that's right. We'll just go on for a run later. We're good.
Well, one of the best parts about the football season is that it does run side by side with, of course, the major holidays. You have Halloween, people get dressed up in the stands, and that's always fun. Thanksgiving, football, and Thanksgiving kind of go hand in hand. And now we have Christmas and football, which means one thing, and that is that the season, sadly, is coming to an end, and that these games probably are some of the most important that we'll see. What does the mood get like around the NFL Network, knowing that we've got, you end one holiday just to launch yourself into the prep for another, but there's like probably the most important stories to be covered coming up, especially coaches on the hot seat, players that get hurt. I mean, what kind of mental strain does this take on a person who is in your line of work?
Well, I actually think like we're past the worst part. Like there were a couple weeks, like week 12, week 13, where the slate of games just wasn't very interesting. But we've got much better slates. Things are on the line. You've got Ezekiel Elliott coming back. You've got coaches on the hot seat. You've got GMs that have already been fired and new ones already come in, and all these different storylines. So it's kind of like the recharge. And we also know that we go from, working a bunch of days a week to like fewer days a week in the playoffs, which is probably the most fun part of our season, like leading up to the Super Bowl. So it's actually we're in a pretty good space. Like just we're past that. It's kind of like in a marathon, like week 12 is like mile 16. You're like, oh my God, I still have 10 miles left. But now we're like right at like mile 24, 25. So we're like happy and ready to see the finish line.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are there right now, too, especially once your team's been mathematically eliminated. Now, for me as a 49ers fan, we were eliminated a while ago, but we couldn't be happier at 4-10 because we have Jimmy Garoppolo. So, I mean, that sort of, puts a Band-Aid on that one.
You have a lot of like promising people. I mean, Reuben Foster coming back, he's just been excellent. He's going to be such a fun player to watch. I'm a big fan. So you got as a 49ers fan, you got a lot of hope. I love John Lynch. He's made some really great moves. Your draft was excellent. I think that's going to be a scary team, especially, depending on what kind of, obviously you've got Seattle, who's a perennial contender, and you've got the Rams, who have gotten really excellent, but I feel like the 49ers are one to watch for next year.
Yeah, and I certainly hope so. It would kind of suck for me just because as a fan, when your team is less than good, you kind of have, that time where, people will look at you and be like, you're still watching your game start to finish? Yeah, and you get discounts on all the merchandise, and it's not hard to come by tickets. But then once they're good, there's no reward for being there during the bad times. So now you have to pay the higher prices, and you have to deal with a lot of crowds and everything. But it's great for the team that they do well, so I'm not knocking anything there.
Well, the best part for me is I'm actually a Lions fan. I'm from Michigan originally, so it's been bad for me for a while. I'm actually like curious if this, obviously we made the playoffs last year, but like I'm curious if the Browns are going to match the 0-16 situation. So I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I actually said that because the Browns play the Bears in Chicago this week, that this would probably be the only win of the season that they would get. And in my pick'em, I picked the Browns to win. So I don't know. If they don't win this game, I don't see them winning the last game of the season. But then again, who saw them beating the Chargers last year? That was just crazy in itself.
Well, I mean, it's just really hard to go 0-16.
Yeah, it really is.
So, it's very difficult to do, and obviously, like I think it's funny when they're like, Hugh Jackson's the first coach to go 0-13. You're like, yeah, because most coaches get fired in that situation. So, it's definitely like a funny statistic or whatever they want to say, but is what it is.
Well, as a Lions fan, then, is that what got you into numbers? Because you do the by the numbers, and I just want to know, like, one, where do you get your ideas for that day or that week's numbers special, and how long is that process?
It's definitely long. So every week, like I've written a bunch of like computer code, and I enter in. So I talk to a whole bunch of coaches and offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators and people who actually have a hand in like making football games go. And when I talk to them, they told me what's important. So I go back and forth and I listen to the things that they tell me. And then I made big mathematical models based on those things. And then I run those each week. And then I also kind of see like what trends are emerging this season. And then we go based on that. And then to make it even more dorky, I take an algorithm that I wrote that does basically like it scans Twitter. So it's a search. It's a search algorithm. So it'll see what people are searching for. So it can see on Google, like if everyone's searching for Antonio Brown injury, it'll show me the volume of a specific player or, a thing going on. So we can try to address the most asked questions and answer them with an expert. So that's kind of how we figured out.
Wow. I don't envy that at all, but at least
super
you have...
nerdy. It's super nerdy.
Yeah, but sometimes the nerdiest things are the best things. I mean, look at how popular like superhero movies and Star Wars are right now. So I mean, clearly it's not what it once was back in, like the 60s, 70s and whatever, but still, these number things that I see, I've never been one to really go by the numbers. I always go by kind of like gut feeling and trend, even though there is a number for a lot of things. Like who knew that Alex Smith was undefeated against the Oakland Raiders? And despite what the numbers might say when the Chiefs and Oakland face off as far as who's got the better team, that's something that matters, in the world of sports, and especially football, are the little things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me because it's like, you want to make sure that, like, sometimes it's like, well, how many times have they really faced each other? In that case, since it's a divisional matchup, then there's like, there's enough. But like, there's some things where you're like, wait, the reason is because of the pass rush or whatever. They're able to do this. There's always a little magic, but usually the magic is backed by a real trend that's observable.
Gotcha. So when it comes to something like this that you've done for a while now, what's been, I guess, either the most mind-blowing number or the biggest surprise in all the research that you've done, whether this season or if you can recall one ever since you started?
I think the thing that I was most surprised by was how you can measure offensive linemen, because it's not something that many people do. It's very hard to do. It's offensive line play is very much one of those gut things. So coming up with a model that would help, identify who a waist bender is and who's got good leverage or bad leverage or footwork, and using video modeling and like data points where you're taking actual geometric shapes and you're mapping them to players, and then you're seeing how they correlate to their whole career. And then you're actually vetting it with like O-line coaches who they usually don't love analytics all that much. So when you're getting them to be like, okay, she's onto something here. That's probably the thing that's been most surprising. Because, we all want to measure quarterbacks because it's like the sexiest position, right? Or wide receivers or running backs. That helps you with fantasy the most. So I think the O-line stuff has been some of the most interesting and cool stuff I've done.
Yeah, and I mean, the O-line is how your quarterback survives. I mean, if you've got one of the top 3 O-lines, you probably have one of the top 5 teams in the league. So I applaud that effort. Now, if someone was to argue, even though I'm convinced that it is, so my argument's been settled, but if someone wanted to say that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, what kind of numbers would you run to prove otherwise?
I mean, I just go with my gut on that one, and I'm going with you that it is absolutely a Christmas movie. It's one of my top 5 favorites. So, I mean, that one's just that's a gut call. It's just either you think it is or you think it isn't. And, I understand people who don't, but I don't really, because I don't agree with them. So, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I feel like a movie having the setting of Christmas, like it happens on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but then you could factor in like how many times Christmas is referenced, how many Christmas trees or lights you see. Like these are all, when it comes to
you're right.
The number rabbit hole, like this is something that you could fall down very easily. But
you could totally create a model for that. The only problem is you have to like run through so many other movies to like watch all the other movies to see how many times those things are, and then like it would just take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Very manual process.
Very manual process. But we are getting closer to the end of the NFL regular season, which is sad. Mm-hmm. But, with Christmas, there are presents. There is a naughty and nice list. Who would be on your naughty and nice list looking back on 2017?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think this year has been really like one of those where injuries have, at least – I have not run the numbers or what, to see if we have more injuries this season than not, but, than other seasons. But it feels like this season that we've had more injuries, and at least to key players that you kind of wouldn't expect. I mean, David Johnson was almost everyone's number 1 fantasy pick, and they lost him early if they had him, those type of things. And it's, so I guess to me, anyone who whoever knocked out David Johnson, these are my naughty list, anyone who no injuries. I don't like injuries. So, obviously it's bad for the whole team. So anyone who knocked out someone is on my naughty list.
So obviously Anthony Barr for Aaron Rodgers, even though he did come back, it just probably wasn't soon enough to really make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I like Anthony Barr, though. He's a good player. It was kind of a weird hit anyways, but I obviously can't I don't get too mad. It's a sport. It happens. It's part of the game, but I still don't like it.
For me, officiating is on the naughty list, and it
I think
goes.
you're always on the naughty list.
Yeah, and it's really something that you think that I want them to be on the nice list. I really do, but I was at the top of the show. I was talking about how we had an otherwise incredible matchup, a thriller of a game that ended in controversy, which I hate because football to me, it sells itself. I mean, the product is addictive and popular and well produced, and we consume it in so many different ways. But you have a rule for something as simple as did the guy catch it or not, broken down into 3 or 4 paragraphs, where you'd think that common sense would have to step in at some point. What's the buzz around NFL Network as far as officiating and when games come down to a call like that?
I think ultimately there's going to be people who fall on both sides of it. When Dean Blandino was the head of officiating, he used to give us this awesome, before the season started, he gave us an awesome presentation kind of showing us things and using examples from last year. And I'm sure if Dean Blandino were still working in the league office, he would come give us, and that specific play would be one that he would talk through with us. But ultimately, everyone has an opinion, just like you do at a bar, just like you do with your friends. And, they may be more opinions that have been shaped by their experiences, like as a coach or as a player or as someone catching a ball, etc. But I think it's pretty much the same as you'd expect. Like some people are like, that is absolutely a catch. That is absolutely not, that type of thing.
Yeah, because I would listen to the sports radio shows the next day, and they'd have their own experts on to explain this, and it was exhausting. And it wasn't exhausting the explanation itself. It was that we felt we needed to call in these people to give us more perspective on something that obviously can't change and won't change, but yet we need some type of closure for ourselves, because otherwise we'll go insane.
Very mental, very, very mental.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, officiating's got to be on the naughty list. I know how it sounds to want to water something down, but at the same time, we're leaving things too technical when it comes to, we have replay to make sure of things, but I don't like that we have replay to basically go through sentence by sentence of what a rule is in paragraph 3, section 4, or whatever it is. Yeah. It's too complicated.
Surviving the ground is confusing to me because like crossing the plane and surviving the ground, like it's very tricky. I mean, I don't know. Like I ultimately I just follow Dean Blandino, and pretty much he does a great job of explaining it. You can follow him on Twitter, and he was a great presentation giver too. So I'm like, I want that presentation back. So I'm like, can you come do it anyways, even though you're at Fox?
Who's on the nice list for me though? I think Tony Romo, just for the job he's done in the booth. Fantastic. I mean, who would have thought?
I mean, I wasn't sure. Like at first, I didn't like all the speculating of I thought there was a little bit much when it was like he's either going to do this or this or this or this, and you're like, okay, we get it. There are some options that he has, like at first, and then he kind of won me over. And he says things like he called an incomplete pass like an inchy or like an inky, he just does funny stuff, and I think ultimately the thing that you can't help but like the fact that he's so happy about it. He's just so he loves being there.
And I think for a lot of us, it's kind of a different side of Tony, and we like it because there's been so many times that a great player has gotten sour to me because of their personality and attitude as an analyst.
Oh, yeah. When you see how the sausage is made, you're like, oh, no, yeah, this is not who I thought they were. Right, yeah.
But then you get a guy that maybe wasn't your favorite player, but now you see into his mind and everything that you didn't get to see.
I like him way better as a player. Way better.
I love it. It's fantastic. Good for Tony Romo. So he's definitely top of the nice list. I hope many great things are to come. It's too bad that CBS isn't the one hosting the Super Bowl this year, because it would be great to have Tony at a Super Bowl, not as a player, but doing commentary, just because you wonder how much of himself he would make fun of, because he's not. Right? He's definitely not beyond that.
I think it's no, he's good about that. I like self-deprecating. I think, A-Rod surprised me in that way too. Like A-Rod's great on the baseball broadcast. I'm like, they got to figure out a way to get those two together.
Oh yeah, just for some exhibition.
Yeah, like something fun. Be like, all right, who's gonna call? They should like have him call basketball, right? They're both such they're like perfectionists about it. They'd probably do a really good job just because both of their personalities seem to be like super prepared, like, things that you would expect, but still like kind of funny in the same time. Cause you're like, geez, they're just good. Like, who knew?
All right. Well, then with the Christmas theme continued, we are all going to have gifts that we get, things that we want, things that we need, and then gifts that we give. What is your least favorite gift to receive on Christmas?
I don't know if people still even do this, but like those like panettones, it's like basically like a fruitcake, but I don't know why people give them to me. I love food. I do love food. Absolutely. Food gifts are always encouraged. But there's something about that. And it's like the new fruitcake, I guess. People love it and I don't at all.
Yeah, and food can be tricky for some people just because it's kind of like shopping. It's kind of like grocery shopping on an empty stomach. Don't do it because you're thinking with your head and stomach as opposed to like the wants and needs of somebody else. And the there and the now. So I agree. I do love food items, especially like cookies or candies. But, I have my favorite cookies and then I have ones that I don't like. So it can be kind of tricky. For me, though.
Well, and I live in LA, so people here are like, gluten blah 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 whatever free, and you're like, I don't even know like what that means, so I'll just get you something else. Like, here's the money. Like, I don't know.
Well, since Mark Istook is the 2017 Piesman, he should just bake everybody a fantastic pie. I mean, I
got third place in that. I was mad. I was robbed.
You were robbed?
I was robbed. Yeah.
I have to go to the booth for official review on that. That's what they need at events like that. Just for added flair is a booth review.
Right.
For me, though, when it comes to Christmas presents, and I get asked this all the time about, people that are having trouble shopping for their significant other. I don't know why they ask me. I mean, I'm married, but it's not like I'm that married as far as some tenured vet of 20 years of marriage. But still, right. I don't like getting things that I need. Like if the wife notices that I've run out of blades for my razor, or that my toothbrush it needs to be changed. It's like, oh yeah, I'll just those are something that you need. I'll get you that. No, because that's a year-long need, and this is Christmas time. Things I want are things that I don't normally need any other time. Like clothes are ridiculous too, because I like to shop for myself when it comes to clothing. So yeah.
I mean, like, good for you for liking that. I don't actually really like shopping for clothes very much. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like I feel like there's too many options, and I just get bogged down by them. I hate trying stuff on. So, I mean, I don't like clothes unless you have like a background. My best friend went to fashion school; she could buy me clothes. Apart from that, like, like then no clothes. No. I'm like, just a bottle of wine's good. Something like something I'll enjoy.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, for some of us, simple is better. Keep it simple and you'll never go wrong. But I think we all have that present that our parents just completely whiffed on as a child. For me, I think it was a video game that there was a few different versions, like, how before Madden was Madden, there was a couple of different football games that you could have and own in your arsenal. And the one that I wanted was Madden, and the one that I got was like Backyard Sports or something. And I was all excited because it was like the only thing that I told them I wanted. And then I opened it, and it was like their mind was in the right place, but it was just an epic fail.
I know. And I once had a boyfriend get me like a video game that he wanted to play, and I wasn't into that either. But that was pretty transparent. I think most people know that.
Yeah, there are the people that will shop for themselves because they honestly don't know what to get their significant other, so they'll buy something for them in hopes that the other person does that as well. But usually you're playing the odds at that point. It's not quite as simple.
Totally.
Well, Cynthia, the last question I had for you then is there's been a lot of glass ceilings that have been broken over the last few years. Just last night on WWE Monday Night Raw, they announced the first ever women's Royal Rumble, which is one of their big four. But for you, as a woman working in sports, I know that I've talked to Erin Coscarelli and Colleen Wolfe.
Yeah.
They're fantastic ladies. They know their stuff. But you're a numbers girl. So what kind of challenges has that presented to you, and how well has that been received by your colleagues and peers?
I feel like because we're kind of in this space where like people talking about numbers, obviously like Moneyball was great for baseball because people could relate to and understand what's going on. And, Brad Pitt was in the movie. So it was like, oh, Brad Pitt, right? Like, so, like that kind of thing. And so, doing something that's a little bit different, I think that, I think that it's been good being a woman because I think I'm allowed to ask a dumb question because no coach assumes I know where the safety was supposed to go. Necessarily, right? Because by the way, most men don't know unless they have the playbook or they understand exactly what the kind of defense that a specific defensive coordinator runs and understands like where the safety is going to blitz in this situation and who actually messed up wasn't the safety, it was the corner. There's a lot of context needed in football, so I think being able to ask questions and I don't worry if they think I'm dumb. Like it's all upside, right? So like use being different as an advantage in a way. I mean, I came from banking, so most people get into this analytics or any version of kind of advanced math or statistics from you either come from a stats background or you come from a banking background, stats or maybe econ. And so I came from banking where I had to tell stories in order to make banking deals go through or, explain the context of something. So I've been doing kind of like telling succinct stories about numbers for a while. And it's just applying it to something. I mean, I've always loved football. I've always been a big sports fan. I also love basketball a ton too. I miss talking about the NBA. When I came over from ESPN, obviously we don't talk about the NBA, but I miss that a ton. But, doing those types of things has been good because it's this new area and people are kind of fascinated by it. And at the same time, it's like, all right, like, let's make it fun and inclusive. And it's a great space for a lot of different people. Like, you don't have to have ever played football to be able to write a good model. You just have to be able to listen to the people who are going to use it. In my case, viewers. But, when I talk to teams, it's different users. So it's been good because it's been like, I've been lucky that, like when the Browns started using analytics, they became more at the forefront of people's minds. And even though these types of things had been going on in teams and front offices for a long time, it became more sexy and interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think that that's great for you, and certainly happy that, there's not such negative stereotypes anymore around things like this. But I've enjoyed your segments on NFL Network, and I, like I said, I'm not normally a numbers guy, but there's a certain presentation that needs to be done with numbers, and I think that you execute that perfectly well. So props to that. I don't normally talk a whole lot of NBA on here just because it's not my strong suit, and I don't want to insult my listeners by having them think I know what I talk about. But if you ever need an outlet or want to talk some NBA, by all means.
Love to get NBA, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just super fun, and it's like you can see it too, and because they have so many games, like you just get really rich data sets. Whereas, the football, 256 regular season games is not a ton of data compared to what you get from basketball. So
or a baseball, yeah.
Well, yeah. Baseball, you have to in order to make a big difference there, you have to be you have to do so next level because they're so evolved in that space. So we're a little bit more nascent in NFL.
Gotcha. Well, is it safe to say all you want for Christmas is a Lions playoff berth then?
Ugh. All I want for Christmas is I would like to see a very, very good week 17 because we're in a good spot. We have a lot of teams that are realistically, there are at least 8 teams on either side of the conference. The NFC a little bit more able to be disrupted, and I want it to matter. I want every game to matter. So all I want is a great week 17 and 16. All week 17.
Fair enough. I can jump on board with that. But Cynthia, I thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And I definitely hope that you have not so many fruitcakes or whatever those things are that come your way, but that you get everything that you want for Christmas and that you have a very Merry Christmas over there at the NFL Network.
Thank you, and you as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. You take care of yourself.
You too. Bye.
Bye. And that was, once again, Cynthia Frelund, and we've got one more quick commercial break before we put a bow on this Tuesday edition of The Fan Show. Don't you go anywhere. We've got more coming up right after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw. That Sky hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns. 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten. You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? You walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how does a puddle right outside your house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks. Good.
You're listening to The Sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ciccarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellects, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? Well, call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
We are back, and it's time to put a bow on this Tuesday edition of the Fan Show. As I mentioned during my conversation with Cynthia Frelund, that the last night was a big night for the WWE, and of course, a lot of us saw it coming. A lot of us knew that it was only a matter of time, and I do find it funny that I've been preaching women's tag team titles for a while, and everybody's like, "There's not enough," and then all of a sudden you saw 6 more women get moved up to the main roster, and you're like, okay, now there's probably enough, and what there is definitely enough for now is a Women's Royal Rumble for the first time in WWE history. The women will compete in their own Royal Rumble match to determine a number 1 contender to face their champion at WrestleMania. And there's been a lot of speculation as far as who might win it. Asuka obviously is the popular pick, but I don't think that they will go that route. Now, it's a very obvious pick, which is exactly why Vince and company would do it, is because sometimes Vince just can't ignore or deny the obvious. However, I think that because she had her streak's technically still going, and she was never defeated as a champion, that will be her thing, and that it's time to let someone else have their thing. I don't think it will be Paige. I know that she was the first NXT champion, and she won the Divas title on her first night on the main roster. Those are her things. I could see Nia Jax, maybe even Becky Lynch, or possibly Nikki Bella, because with the first women's Money in the Bank, we saw Carmella. Who would have thought that, win the Money in the Bank briefcase, and she still has it. So I think it'll be a dark horse. I think it will be an unlikely candidate, but between who the champions currently are and who would be who would get the most benefit from winning something like this, I really think it's got to be someone not Asuka. I like Nia Jax in this. I really do. I think it's time for Nia to get a much needed push, and I think that she would be a great superstar to have win something along these lines. So my pick is Nia Jax. We will have a Royal Rumble round table. Very excited for that. That'll be the week of the Rumble. It is 6 weeks away. Raw last night did not have Roman Reigns. Oh my God, hallelujah, amen. I felt like I had to pay extra for that, and I don't know what my Comcast bill is going to look like, but whatever they charged extra for having no Roman Reigns on Raw, yeah, I'll pay it. I wish I would have known. I would have made it a very special occasion. Turn the lights down low, light some candles. Look, for everyone that says that Roman's so goddamn talented, I'm sorry, I don't see it. His opponent carries him the entire match. You want to talk about phenomenal talents? Cesaro, Sheamus, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Shinsuke Nakamura, Finn Balor, Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Those are phenomenal talents that don't need to be carried by their opponent and are not over-pushed and jammed down your throat. So I'm sorry that I'm not sorry. I don't like Roman Reigns. And I probably won't for a long time. John Cena will be at the 25th anniversary of Raw, which is the Christmas edition next week. So that'll be a fun time. Or is it just... No, I think the 25th anniversary is next year, and this is just the Christmas edition. But anyway, John Cena, who is fresh off his Ferdinand promo tour, The Rock doing Jumanji, two peas in a pod they are. So that's been your sports entertainment. I do think Raw was a solid show, though, top to finish. I don't know if Dean Ambrose is actually hurt, but him and Seth Rollins had great matches last night. And SmackDown is tonight, so you won't want to miss that. That is at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Or, I'm sorry, 5 Eastern, 8 Pacific. I almost forgot how that worked. The National Arena League has officially and finally released its 2018 regular season schedule. It's got some great matchups on there. April 7th, the new expansion team, coached by former Wichita Falls head coach Billy Back, will open their season at home for the inaugural season of the Cobras against the reigning champion Jacksonville Sharks. That should prove to be a fantastic opener, and you can catch all of the schedules on the National Arena League website. So I am currently going through and trying to get all my credential approvals. This tour should prove to be my best one yet, and I'm very excited about it. So there's some other headlines for you. We'll do the list of fan show as well as Butt Fumble Award tomorrow night. I feel like we kind of already know who's going to be put on the list, whether it's the NFL or referees, because, oh my goodness, maybe index cards. Oh, that was so bad. I just don't understand certain things when it comes to this league. I really don't. But yes, referees, the NFL officiating, they're on the naughty list. The nice list, Tony Romo. Well done, sir. Well done. And I think he's found his thing, and that's good for him. And I know that we dogged on him a lot, but this is a side of Tony that we didn't get to see. And I personally like this Tony Romo. I really do. Kobe Bryant, his numbers got retired last night, which I don't quite understand. I think pick one or the other, and for me, 24 would have been the one to get retired, but whatever. Number 8, number 24 were retired last night. Mamba out. I don't watch a whole lot of basketball. I didn't last night, but I know to Laker fans, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest Laker, and it was a special moment for them. So congratulations, Kobe Bryant. And then we will have our Fan versus Fan show pick'em tomorrow or Thursday, depending on when head coach of the Maine Mammoths, James Fuller, will be on. Tomorrow we do have Peter Avalon, a professional wrestler, on. And then Thursday, the Grinch, to launch us into the Christmas weekend. It will be the most wonderful week of the year here on the Fan Show. And big thank you to Cynthia Frelund for being my first guest of the week. So with that, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at FanShowOfficial, like the Facebook page, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial. Toys for Tots is our charity of choice the month of December. Go visit teespring.com/thefanshow. Visit the official merchandise store, order a t-shirt, hoodie, or both, and 10% of your purchase will go towards Toys for Tots to help less fortunate children have a very Merry Christmas. And then you can follow along on Instagram, which is The Fan Show, and your home base for all things football and nonsense is where? thefanshow.com. You can catch up on all past episodes there under the Listen Live tab, where it has all the previous episodes listed, as well as subscribe in podcast form to iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Catch replays on WBLZ Sports if you download that app. And then you can listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, live on thefanshow.com or Spreaker.com. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, Jimmy G, baby. And remember, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.